A cold wind swept through the narrow streets, carrying whispers no one could understand. The village lay silent, almost forgotten by time. Windows shuttered, doors locked tight. Shadows moved strangely, stretching longer than they should. From the fog, a lone traveler appeared. His boots clicked against the cobblestones, echoing through the empty village. He paused, sensing the weight of eyes that were not there. Old posters clung to the walls, yellowed and torn. Words scrawled in haste warned of cursed blades, blades that hunted the guilty and left nothing but fear in their wake. A flicker of movement caught his eye. In the distance, a figure vanished into the mist, leaving only the echo of a metallic clang. The traveler's heart beat faster, yet curiosity drew him onward. He noticed the villagers, few who dared leave their homes, casting wary glances from behind curtains. Whispers followed him, soft and hurried, carrying a warning he could not fully hear. The fog thickened, curling around his legs like fingers, guiding him toward the center of the village. A sense of unease settled in his chest. Something here was alive, something waiting. And then, faintly, almost imperceptibly, the traveler heard it, the soft scrape of steel against stone. Not a man, not a beast, something far older, far angrier. He shivered, gripping his coat tighter. Somewhere in the village, the cursed blades had already begun their hunt. The stranger had arrived, and the nightmare was just beginning.
The traveler's boots echoed against the cobblestones as he followed the fog-choked street. Through the haze, a dim light flickered behind a cracked window, a small antique shop forgotten by time. Pushing open the creaking door, he was met with the scent of old wood, rusted metal, and dust thick enough to taste. Every surface was covered with relics, clocks that ticked unevenly, paintings whose eyes seemed to follow him, and shelves lined with weapons, each more ominous than the last. Behind the counter, an old shopkeeper peered at him with sharp, wary eyes. Not many wander here after dusk, especially not tonight. The traveler's gaze fell upon a set of knives displayed under a cracked glass case. Their steel gleamed unnaturally, catching the dim light as though alive. "You see those?" the shopkeeper said, voice low, almost a whisper. "Those are the blades of the damned. They've taken more than a few lives, not by chance, but by choice." The traveler leaned closer. He could feel a chill emanating from the blades. Something inside him stirred, a mixture of fear and curiosity. "People say they hunt those who carry guilt. Once marked, nothing can save you. They don't just cut flesh, they cut the soul." A sudden noise made him flinch, a faint scrape of metal from the shadows. His eyes darted around, but the shop seemed empty. The blades, however, shimmered ever so slightly, as if impatient. The traveler swallowed hard. He wanted to leave, yet some force drew him closer, forcing his hand to hover above the cold steel. In that moment, he realized the danger was not just in the blades, but in the fascination they inspired. Outside, the fog pressed against the windows, a silent reminder that the world beyond the shop was not safe. And somewhere, in the distance, the first whisper of the curse stirred, preparing for what was to come. The traveler had stepped into the story of the blades of the damned, and there was no turning back. Night fell heavier than before, draping the village in darkness. The traveler climbed the narrow stairs to his rented room above the shop. The air inside was still, almost suffocating, filled with the scent of old wood and lingering dust. He tried to settle, but sleep refused him. Shadows danced along the walls, stretching and twisting in ways that felt unnatural. As he drifted into a restless slumber, his dreams became a labyrinth of movement. A shadowy figure glided silently, knives gleaming in the dim light. It whispered no words, yet its intent was unmistakable. A sudden jolt awakened him. The room was silent, but the walls bore new scratches, thin, deliberate, and shaped like strange, unfamiliar runes. The traveler's pulse quickened. He touched the marks, cold and raw under his fingers, as if the blades had left a warning. A soft knock echoed from the hall. He opened the door, heart racing. No one was there. Just the empty hallway, empty but for the oppressive fog creeping in through the window cracks. From the shadows, a faint whisper reached his ears. Once marked, nothing is safe. The traveler pressed his back against the door, trying to calm his racing thoughts. But every creak of the floor, every sigh of the old building sounded like the approach of unseen steel. Outside, the village slept, or pretended to. Somewhere a distant clang echoed, like blades colliding in a battle no one else could see. The traveler realized with chilling certainty that the curse had already found him. Sleep would not return that night, and somewhere in the dark, the blades of the damned waited, patient, relentless, and hungry.
The next morning, the traveler felt the weight of the night pressing on his mind. He knew he could no longer ignore the strange events. He needed answers. The village library stood like a forgotten monument, its windows clouded with age and dust. Inside, the air smelled of old paper and secrets waiting to be uncovered. He moved carefully between towering shelves, searching for anything that could explain the markings, the whispers, the blades. In a corner, he discovered a section of old chronicles, books with faded covers, their pages brittle and yellowed. One, in particular, caught his eye. A leather-bound journal, its spine cracked, contained stories of a warrior executed centuries ago. The warrior had been dishonored, accused of crimes he did not commit. Before his death, legend says he swore vengeance. His spirit, filled with anger and injustice, bound itself to a set of knives forged in secret, each blade carrying his wrath. The traveler's finger traced the sketches of the knives in the journal. They matched exactly what he had seen in the antique shop. A shiver ran down his spine. It was written that the blades chose their victims, not at random, but those who harbored guilt, greed, or betrayal. The cursed steel would seek out the mark, striking when least expected, leaving fear in its wake. A folded parchment slipped from the journal. Symbols, identical to the scratches on his room's walls, stared back at him. The realization hit hard. The blades had already claimed him as a target. He closed the journal carefully, heart pounding. Somewhere deep within the village, the cursed spirit stirred, sensing the intrusion. The air seemed colder, heavier, as if the library itself warned him to leave. But it was too late. The traveler now understood the rules of the hunt. The blades of the damned were not just weapons. They were living, vengeful entities, bound to a past that would not forgive and a present that could not escape. Outside, the fog crept closer, curling around the library windows like fingers reaching for him. The traveler knew one truth. Knowledge had brought him closer to survival, but also closer to the blades themselves. The hunt was no longer a story of the past. It had become his reality.
Night fell again, heavier than before, smothering the village in darkness. The traveler stepped cautiously into the narrow alleyways, each stone glistening with moisture from the creeping fog. His pulse hammered in his chest, every sound magnified in the silence. Somewhere nearby, a villager had vanished. Whispers told of screams, sudden and sharp, that cut through the night, but no one could find the source. The traveler felt the weight of eyes on him, unseen, yet knowing his every movement. A flash of movement caught his attention, a shadow slipping along the wall. He froze. The faint glint of steel flickered in the darkness, almost like a reflection, almost like a warning. Then came the whisper, soft, chilling, and almost playful. "You cannot hide. We know." He turned sharply, but the alley was empty. Only the fog curled around his feet, twisting like fingers reaching for him. Every heartbeat felt louder than the last, echoing in the confined space. Suddenly, a knife clattered to the cobblestones a few feet away. The sound rang like a bell of doom. The traveler's breath caught. The blades were here, moving, hunting, waiting for a mistake. A cold wind brushed past him. Out of the corner of his eye, a shadow lunged, fast and silent. He stumbled backward, narrowly avoiding the strike. The alley seemed endless, walls closing in, every corner hiding the gleam of steel. He ran, heart pounding, trying to make sense of the impossible. Whispers followed, distant screams echoed, and fleeting glimpses of the blades appeared in every reflection, on windows, puddles, and even in the wet cobblestones. At the alley's end, he dared a glance behind him. Nothing, yet the feeling of being hunted lingered, a chill pressing into his bones. The realization struck him like lightning. The blades of the damned were not just a story. They were real, and they had already chosen him. Every step he took, every shadow he passed, could be his last. The hunt had begun, and the village, silent as it seemed, held its breath, watching, waiting, knowing the curse had awakened. The traveler moved cautiously through the fog-choked streets, every step heavy with dread. His mind raced with the memory of the alley, the flashes of steel, and the whispers that seemed to follow him wherever he went. He reached the village church, its stone walls bathed in the pale light of the moon. The doors creaked as he pushed them open, revealing a sanctuary steeped in silence and shadow. Candles flickered, casting long, trembling shapes on the walls. Inside, an elderly priest emerged from the shadows. His eyes, sharp yet weary, seemed to peer into the traveler's very soul. "You should not be here at this hour," he said quietly. "The darkness you carry, it is older than this village." The traveler explained what had happened: the antique shop, the knives, the scratches, the whispers. The priest listened intently, nodding with the gravity that made the traveler uneasy. "These blades," the priest whispered, "are not mere metal. They are bound by a spirit wronged in life, a warrior betrayed, executed, and filled with vengeance. His anger never faded. It clings to the knives, hunting those who stumble into its path." The priest's hands trembled slightly as he continued. "There is a way to stop it, a ritual. It is dangerous, and it demands courage. You must confront the spirit in its tomb and return the blades to their resting place. Only then may the curse be lifted." A chill ran down the traveler's spine. "And if I fail?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. The priest's eyes darkened. "Then the blades will not rest, and neither will you. The hunt will continue until the spirit claims what it believes is owed. Outside, the fog swirled like living fingers, as if impatient for the next move. The traveler felt the weight of his choice pressing upon him. To face the warrior's spirit, to confront the blades of the damned, or to run and risk losing everything. The church doors closed behind him, sealing his decision. There was no turning back. The curse had already chosen him, and now he must choose how to face it.
The traveler left the safety of the village behind, stepping into a forest that seemed older than time itself. Fog wrapped around twisted trees, their branches clawing at the night sky like skeletal fingers. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if the forest itself resisted his progress. Whispers drifted through the air, soft and distant at first, then closer, clearer. Names he did not recognize, villagers who had long vanished, echoed between the gnarled trunks. Each whisper carried a warning, a reminder that the blades of the damned were always watching. He reached the tomb, its entrance carved into the hillside, dark and foreboding. The stone doorway was etched with runes that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. A chill radiated from within, seeping into his bones. As he stepped closer, visions assaulted him. Ghostly figures of the warrior's victims flickered at the edges of his vision, screaming silently, their eyes hollow, pleading. The blades appeared, embedded in trees and rocks, shimmering unnaturally, as though alive. Each reflection in the puddles, every shadow cast by the moon, held a knife poised to strike. The forest seemed to breathe around him, exhaling cold air that whispered doubt and fear. He stumbled, heart hammering, but pressed on, knowing the ritual depended on reaching the tomb. A sudden movement caught his eye. Shadows slithered between trees, coalescing into forms that lunged and vanished before he could see clearly. The whispers grew louder, accusing him, warning him, trying to break his resolve. Every instinct screamed to flee, but the traveler knew he had no choice. The forest and its illusions were testing him, pushing him to the edge of reason. One misstep, one glance away, and the blades could strike. He finally stood at the tomb entrance, breath ragged, palms cold, body trembling. The fog swirled around him like restless spirits. Ahead lay the confrontation he had dreaded, but also the only chance to end the curse. The forest fell silent, as if holding its breath. The traveler pushed open the heavy stone doors, stepping into darkness that smelled of metal, decay, and ancient wrath. The blades of the damned waited, patient, relentless, and hungry. The traveler's footsteps echoed in the tomb, swallowed quickly by darkness. The walls were lined with racks of rusted weapons, long forgotten and covered in the dust of centuries. But among them, the cursed blades gleamed, restless and alive. A cold wind swept through the chamber, carrying a whisper that seemed to come from every direction at once. "You dare enter my domain." Then he saw it, the warrior's spirit, a figure clad in shadows, eyes burning like molten steel. In his hands the blades of the damned twisted and shimmered, floating as if eager to strike. The spirit spoke, voice echoing and hollow. "You tread where the guilty belong. Do you come to steal my vengeance, or to claim your own fate?" The traveler's heart pounded, but he steadied himself. The ritual depended on confronting the spirit directly, returning the blades to their tomb. There was no turning back.
The warrior lunged, blades spinning with supernatural speed. Shadows stretched across the walls and the knives clashed against stone, sparks flying like fleeting stars. Every instinct screamed to run, but the traveler pressed forward, chanting the incantation the priest had taught him. The spirit's rage surged, and the tomb seemed to twist, walls closing in, shadows writhing like living things. The traveler's voice grew stronger, defying fear, drawing the blades toward the ritual circle etched into the floor. Steel struck air, then stone, then nothing. The spirit shrieked, a sound that pierced the silence and shook the very ground. Light began to glow from the circle, pulling the cursed blades from the spirit's grasp. One by one they floated into place, humming with power. The warrior's form wavered, twisting, shrieking, fading into shadows. His anger, his vengeance, his existence bound to the knives began to unravel. The tomb trembled as the spirit dissolved, leaving only silence and the faint glow of the ritual circle. The traveler's hands trembled as he knelt before the ritual circle etched into the cold stone floor. Candles flickered, casting shadows that danced like restless spirits. The cursed blades hovered above the circle, quivering as if aware of their fate. He began the incantation, voice shaking at first, then growing stronger with each word. The air thickened, pressing against his chest, carrying whispers of fury and despair. The blade spun violently, metal humming with unnatural energy, as if resisting the ritual itself. A cold wind swept through the tomb, extinguishing some candles, leaving the traveler in near darkness. The whispers rose into a roar, voices of the past screaming in anger, warning, threatening. He forced his focus, repeating the words, placing each blade carefully into the circle. Sparks of energy flared as the steel met the ancient symbols, the air vibrating with the spirit's last defiance. Then silence. The wind died. The candles steadied. The tomb was still. The traveler sank to his knees, chest heaving, palms trembling, as a faint glow settled around the blades. The spirit's presence had vanished, banished, at least, for now. He rose slowly, hands numb, staring at the dormant blades. They lay silent, harmless for the moment, yet he knew their curse was never truly gone. Somewhere, in the shadows beyond the tomb, the echoes of the past lingered, waiting for the next foolish soul to awaken them. The traveler had survived. The ritual was complete. The blades of the damned were contained. For now.
The traveler returned to the village at dawn, the first light painting the rooftops in pale gold. The fog had lifted, leaving the streets eerily quiet, as if the town itself were holding its breath. He climbed the narrow stairs to his rented room, hoping the nightmare was finally behind him. The room seemed unchanged, still dusty, still silent, but the weight of the past hours pressed against him like a shadow he could not shake. He placed a hand on his desk and froze. A faint scratch marked his skin, a rune, subtle but unmistakable. His pulse quickened. He traced it with trembling fingers, realizing with sinking dread that the mark of the blades had followed him. A breeze rustled the curtains. In the mirror he caught a glimpse of movement behind him, quick, fleeting, almost imperceptible. His reflection showed only him, yet a shadow lingered, darker than the morning light should allow. The traveler's breath caught. A whisper, soft and distant, brushed his ear. The hunt is not over. He spun, heart pounding, but the room remained still. Only the scratch remained, a silent promise that the blades of the damned were patient,
relentless and waiting for the next moment to strike. Outside, the village resumed its quiet, pretending that nothing had happened. But in the corner of the traveler's mind, he knew the truth. The curse never truly ends. And somewhere, in the shadows, the blades waited. The screen fades to black.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.